Key West 219 FS. I'll try to go through all the systems real quick on the dash, batteries, engine stuff, and then we'll go and check out all the other things on the boat. So first of all, we have a 2-position battery switch, or 3-position I should say, with 2 batteries. Up is off. This is battery 2, battery 1, and then down is combined. If you're going to be sitting at a sandbar or something, listening to music, you don't want to kill both batteries, you can put it on one, and then you can run it on either battery. If you need the extra juice, you can leave it on combined, so both batteries are providing power. Then you have key fobs. So this is Yamaha's newest system. You have lock and unlock on your key fobs, which if you power the system on right here on this button, you can see everything light up. If the system was locked without a key fob present, you would not be able to hit the start stop button and have it start. So it is a proximity. So if you walk away, say you lock it, it's going to give you one beep and then it's going to flash here. You would not be able to come and power up the system. Since I have the key fob in proximity, I can either push unlock or I can hit the power button and it's going to power back up. And then make sure your engine's in the water, and then you have your start stop button here. Couple of Binnacle functions. You have a neutral hold. So if you're at the dock getting the boat warmed up and people are loading or unloading and you don't want somebody to bump the throttle, you can put it in neutral hold and then it will not go into gear. You can rev the engine, but no transmission is engaged. Your other button is trim assist, which we don't set up. You have to do that through your Yamaha gauge, and then it will trim the engine at a set RPM or set mile per hour by whatever you set it by in the gauge. The last function, the last 2 functions on here are the tilt trim. So tilt trim on the motor, and then indicates on your gauge level here, and then tilt trim down. And then you have your speed control. So once you go into gear, you would hit down to engage your speed control. It tells you speed control is active, and then we have it set by RPM increments. So I can push the button down here, up, and it's gonna go up by 50 RPM increments until you hit the range that the throttle is set at. In order to disengage the speed control, you can either move the Binnacle back to neutral, or you can move it past its current position of where it's set up for RPM, and then it'll disengage, and then you can re-engage it at any speed and use it to control if you're doing a specific troll or you're in a no wake zone or something, you don't want to have to move the Binnacle up and down, you can use that button. Now getting into the Yamaha side of things, so you have a full Yamaha gauge here. You have your miles per hour, which isn't reading because we're going kind of slow. There it goes. And then fuel gauge, and you can see we're on speed control, which they're giving you that little cruise control symbol. All of these are customizable, so if you want to change this from fuel used, fuel economy, and fuel flow, you just push and hold, and it's going to ask you what you want to replace that data with, and then you can go and set it up how you like it. This is your gear position indicator: forward, neutral, reverse, and then your RPMs. Don't trust your fuel gauge here. It's only a float gauge, so if it gets stuck, it won't read properly, or if you're at a weird angle, it's going to read different. In order to get your accurate fuel, you can swipe, hit your trip, and it's going to pull up how much fuel you've used, which is also on that gauge, how many hours are on the engine for trip distance. You reset all this stuff except the total hours that's stored in the ECU. So you can see we have about 0.9 hours on it right now, so pretty much broken in. Once you get to 10 hours, the engine's completely broken in. So until you get to 10 hours, you're going to want to vary your RPMs. Don't want it the constant RPM for longer than about 10 to 15 minutes, I think is what the manual says. But to reset, you can push and hold and reset each individual, or you can reset all down here and then back. The rest of this, your steering friction is actually the tension on the steering wheel, so we have that regular, and then we have your lock to lock is variable, so at lower RPMs your engine is going to turn quicker to help in docking and tight maneuverability, and then it's going to turn slower at higher speeds. This is the trim assist. You can see we have it turned off. You can go into your boat settings and set that up, and then you can reset to factory, and then device settings is basically all the rest of the stuff on the gauge: brightness, level, backgrounds, all that good stuff. And then your boat settings again is where you calibrate your trim, fuel flow offsets, tank presets, trim assist, all that good stuff. And then we just swipe to get back to our main gauge. Where you're going to want to spend most of your time is going to be the Garmin. This is a pretty complex system. I believe it was the 1243 touch. I'll get that information for you, and it's pretty intuitive once you start using it. Garmin has a great YouTube channel called their webinar series, so you can go there and figure out how to do chart plotting, how to do sonar, and learn specifically each individual item on the Garmin instead of going through and watching a big 2-hour presentation on stuff that you may never use, because this unit is capable of doing autopilot, radar, I mean everything. But if you want to go home, you just hit there. All your menus are here. If you start using things quite often, you want to add them to a favorite screen, you just push and hold, and it's going to ask what you want to do with it. Do you want to rearrange it? We can add it to our pin screen, and then that updates it to go to your pin screen. Charts, your nav chart gives you better above water markings. Your fishing chart gives you better below water markings. So I don't know if you can see the gradients in here now, but if we go to the fish chart, zoom in, it gives you a lot better bottom detail. 3D chart, it's a perspective chart. I don't use that one all that often, but it kind of tells you where you're going and what you're getting into ahead of time. And then we have your sonar menu. We have just your regular sonar, depth, water temperature, GPS speed, battery voltage, time, all that good stuff. And then you can do split frequencies, all kinds of stuff there. Combos, this is a screen I use most of the time. So you have your chart plotter and your sonar, and then you can add a combo, different layouts, all kinds of good stuff there. So take your time with this. Try and watch that webinar series that Garmin has. Try to send you a link. And then all your boat systems are here. Your steering, tilt, or tilt electric, so you push this button down and you can tilt it up or down. And then you have all your buttons. So your nav lights, we would push forward to have our navigation lights fire up, and they're right there on either side of the boat. And then your anchor light, of course, is up on the roof. That needs to be the highest point of the boat when you are using it at night or low light conditions. So up would light up the navigation lights and the anchor light, middle is off, and then down is just your 360 white light above. So if you're anchored in low light conditions, we want our anchor light on, not our navigation lights on. Your bilge is on a float switch. If for some reason you think the float switch isn't working, you can turn it on manually there. If the float switch activates, you should get that little blue light right here lighting up even when the switch is off, letting you know the bilge is active. Live well fill in the live well. I have plugs for this that you can put in there, and then there's a drain up under here over by the fill nozzle where you just continuously let it fill, and then it'll go out that drain. And I think there is a grate on it as well, so your bait can't swim out. Live well lights, you have a little LED in the live well. Your courtesy lights is another 3-position switch. So up is going to give you the blue lights on the side of the console, and then down is going to light up everything else. Your lights underneath here, and then underneath your gunnel. I think you have one in the back and one in the front, so it gives you a lot of light. Easier on your eyes than white light. Raw water is your raw water pump that is down here. So you can hook your hose to that, and there also is a bib on it. So even though you turn the pump on, you still have to open the bib. And then your fresh water, same thing, just up under the forward portion of the gunnel. And the fill for the fresh water is under the front seat, right there. You need a key to get into that, which I believe is in the owner's bag. And they turn it on here. You can hear the pump. And then you have 3 accessory switches that are not currently being used. And then your horn. And then you have a 12-volt outlet to plug in accessories. Went over the Yamaha gauge. Trim tabs. If you've never used trim tabs, play around with them. Engine trim does a lot for this boat to get the bow up or down. And then if you have an odd load, if the boat is off center and you got more people on the port side and starboard's riding high, you can push the bow down on starboard side. You can see the trim tab on port side is deploying to then push the boat back to level. If you're trying to get the boat on plane in shallow water, of course we want our trim down as far as possible, and then you can also push all down, and it pushes your trim tabs all the way down. That encourages the stern to lift and then keep the bow flatter. So if you're in shallower water, you can brighten the display or you can darken it a little bit depending on the light conditions. And then if you're going to be trailering the boat, you would want to hit the all up button, or as soon as you power off the Binnacle, the trim tabs come up and you can hear them. Maybe you can hear them. Hopefully you can hear them. Then your cell phone charger Fusion stereo, power on. I believe you have a couple of different zones for your volume. So you can turn the volume, switch to this zone. You can turn that zone independently. I think that's your hard top. And I think these are speakers in the boat. If you want to do all of them, you just leave it on home. So there's a lot to play around with here too. And then you can change sources. So right now we're on FM, and then we can go over to Bluetooth. If you want to hook up the Bluetooth, you would then hit your menu button and you would make it Bluetooth, and then we would say connections, want to make it discoverable, and then find it on your phone to pair it, and then push and hold to turn off. Hard top, we have a map light. So turn it one way and you're going to get white light, and then if you hold it, it's going to dim. It's probably showing up horrible on video. And then this way is red light, and then hold it again to dim, and then off is in the middle. Your VHF, another one that you might want to do some reading on, but push and hold your power button, should pop up and start beeping at us here in a second. It's going to beep at you, I think every 15 or 30 minutes until you get your MMSI number, which is what it's saying there. It needs you to set your MMSI number. So you can go to, I think Boat US has a link, or there's a link directly on the Coast Guard. You give them your information, and then you come in here, and to get that beeping to go away, you hit clear. It's going to take you to the home menu, which monitors 16, and then you would go to your menu and enter the MMSI number. It's going to stop beeping at you, and you can see right here, hopefully it says no MMSI. So once you enter that, that'll go away, and it'll stop beeping at you. It is a dual band, so you have VHF and you have weather. Which my antenna's down, so it's not receiving very well, but push it to go back to VHF, and then your volume is here, and then push it for your squelch. Tone the squelch down a little bit, and then you change your channels here, or you can push the button once to monitor 16, and then 9 is your second priority. But that's about it on the VHF. And then you have some lights on your hardtop. So we have 3 switches. First switch is your front spreader light right here. Second switch is your aft spreader lights back here, one on either side, there and there. And then that third switch all the way aft is your blue hardtop lights. All right, front of the boat. So we have the cushions for the seats, which are stowed inside the boat so we don't blow away. And then we have your anchor up front with 4 feet of chain, 100 feet of road. And then that black plug is your trolling motor plug. So the boat is pre-wired for a trolling motor if you wanted to add one. Both of the front seats are storage. They don't stay 100% dry, so don't put anything in there that would be damaged. And then your seat here has a cooler underneath it, which does drain into the bilge, so just be conscious of that. Good look of the boat this way. There's your VHF antenna, so you would just pull that handle about 45 degrees, lift the antenna up and lock it back down, and just be conscious of that for bridge crossings and trailering. Fender cleats. This was another option we added, so you can tie your fenders to separate cleats, so you're not using your good dock line cleats for fenders. Your head console, which is lockable in case you want to stick something in there. That key is used by like every other boat on the planet, so don't put anything too valuable in here. But you can see all your cushions for the front of the boat, back of the boat, covers for your Yamaha gauge, your Garmin, and your Fusion stereo. And then your helm pad, console, you can stuff stuff in there. And then your pad up here. You saw the E-box already, that can lock as well. And then life jacket storage, so you can stow your life jackets in there. The boat does come with a safety kit, and we'll go over that when we meet up. But we have rod holders, cup holder, rod holder, another fender cleat, another dock line cleat, and then back to the swim platform with your little cooler there. That's an insulated cooler, or you can just use it for storage. And then what else do we add? Upgraded leaning post with flip down bolsters, so you just pull these down to be able to sit. Added the armrests, nice touch. Storage here, and then your raw water pump is tucked up in there if you ever need to get to that. Storage on that side. Digital Yamaha, so you have digital steering. It's electric over hydraulic. Your flush port, so we'll go over that hopefully when we meet up. And then you have your tilt trim switch back on the engine, which does not work unless the battery switch is on. And then you have your pull-out cooler, your little handle. Grab it to unlatch it, slide it out, that way you can open it all the way. Oh, you have good opening when it's down here already. And then inside the cooler are your hoses for your raw water and fresh water. And then, like I said, all your plugs, all that good stuff. Self-bailing cockpit, so you can see these are guttered to flow water through. And then hopefully that'll cover most of our bases. Oh yeah, this little guy here, that connects to your stereo, so it's a USB in case you wanted an auxiliary input. But if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, give us a call, visit the website. When you're operating the boat, as far as getting it on plane, I always put my trim all the way down as soon as I come off plane. That way I'm just ready to go. But you don't want to just hammer down the Binnacle. I mean, I'm sure you've owned boats before, but you can ease the throttle up. This 200 is a really good engine for this package. The boat's not super heavy, and it planes really well. Try to give you a good inclination of what the bow rise looks like. But once you go getting on plane, ease the throttle up. And then you can kind of look at your fuel economy as you trim up, and you might pick up a couple RPMs as well. But I usually run these boats between 3 and 4 bars of trim. They don't tend to porpoise that bad. But you can see we're getting, 4-ish miles per gallon with an 80-gallon tank. So you got a really nice range on this boat. I mean, cruise speed, we're doing 28 right now, verified by GPS speed. And feel free to run it top speed. Like I said, just don't leave it at the same RPM for longer than about 10 minutes.